This is the hardest story I've ever had to tell because it's my own. I've wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon since I was 7 years old, and I did it. I matched into residency at my #1 pick at Lenox Hill Hospital. Literally, I was on top of the world and could not wait to start. Like every intern across the country, we all start on July 4th weekend, and I was starting on the general surgery service on night float. And I remember texting my family before I started my shift, because I have a big family. I have 3 brothers and, my parents, and we have a very active family group text chain. And I said, guys, I'm starting night float tonight. Please don't bother me. I have to focus. So I get to the Gen Surge lounge a little early, like 6:45, and it is just chaos. It's everyone's first day, and people are trying to sign out and do all these tasks that they don't even know how to do. And the chief resident tells me, you know what, Nance, just here, pick up this pre-op and just go start on their paperwork and come back and we'll do official sign out. So I go to the nurse's station and I lay out the paperwork, and I'm about to start kind of looking up all the labs and, mark the chest x-ray, EKG that this patient has done so they're able to do surgery. And I get a ring on my phone. And I look, and it's my mom. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just told everyone I'm starting work. And so I just let it go, straight to voicemail. 5 seconds later, I get another call from mom. Like, oh my God. So I pick it up. I go, Mom, I'm at work. What's going on? And she says calmly, it's Kevin, who's my middle brother. She says, he was in an accident. He dove into the pool and he hit his head, and now they're taking him to the hospital. And that was like all the information she had. So I tell her, listen, it's the first day of residency. Just make sure that an attending reads over his x-rays, just because you don't want them to miss anything. And I kind of like brushed her off and said, okay, thanks, I gotta go, bye. And I go back to the computer and I start to open up the patient's files and start doing the pre-op. Then about 5 minutes later, I get a call from my youngest brother, Ryan. And he says, it's about Kev. I said, I know, Mom said that he hit his head, and I told him just, make sure you get an x-ray and have the attending look it over. And he goes, no, you don't understand. Kev can't move. He's in a helicopter right now going over to Stony Brook. And I said, okay. And I hung up the phone. And I stared at that pre-op paperwork for like another 5 minutes. And I got up from the nurse's station and I walked back into the surgery lounge where the same chaos was going on. No one had left. Everyone is shouting, furiously typing on the computer. And I walk into the middle of the lounge and I face the chief resident and I look at him and I say, I'm so sorry, I can't do this pre-op. And he looks at me and is like, what's the matter? And I look at him, tears welling up in my eyes, and I say, I think my brother is paralyzed. And I drop down on my knees and all the papers go splattering across the floor. And now the lounge is drop dead silent and everyone is looking at me. And I'm in shock. I can't move. I can't say anything. And one of the senior residents, she physically picks me up and she takes my phone, calls my husband, tells him that she's putting me in a cab home, and to meet me outside. And all the events afterwards are pretty blurry, but somehow my husband procured a car and we drove out the hour and a half out to Stony Brook Hospital, where Kevin was airlifted to. And Kevin was at Duke University, a Division I athlete, had ran for Team USA, a truly phenomenal athlete, and the last person I could imagine that would be able to live life as a quadriplegic. And I remember walking into that ER waiting room, and it was filled with his friends who had been with him in the Hamptons when he dove into this pool and accidentally hit his head. And I'll never forget the smell of that room was full of like sweat and sunscreen. And everyone, when they saw me walk in, like, oh my gosh, Kevin's sister's here. She's the doctor. She knows what to do. And I have been a doctor officially for 15 minutes. And everyone is looking to me. And so a nurse brings me into the trauma bay where Kev is. And the hardest thing as a adult child is to see your parents in pain looking at their own child. And he was laying there, arms propped up on the pillows, the neck brace, all of the tubes. You know, it's a horrible scene for anyone who has to see a loved one who's been in a severe accident. And I gave my parents a hug, and I tapped Kev on the head, and I told him that he was going to be my first patient, and that my night shift starts now.